Good afternoon. My name is Nick Pettis. I'm in your Accounting 5470 Forensic Accounting class. My accounting fraud presentation is on the Healthsouth Scandal that took place in the mid-90s to early 2000s. Healthsouth was founded in 1984 in Birmingham, Alabama by David Scrushy. Healthsouth was one of its kind. They were a inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation center that also performed surgeries. This idea was so popular that they had over 1,900 facilities in the US, the UK, and Australia not long after opening. They, they also had contracts with Major League Baseball, football, soccer, and basketball, along with corporations such as Walmart. In 1996, when HealthSouth went public, their market value was over $12 billion, which later turned out to be overstated by $2.7 billion in accounting fraud. They did this in a time in the early 90s when things were not looked at as tightly as they are now. The investors were more concerned with revenue than they were with profit, and GAAP was not near as strict. It was looked at as if it's not in the GAAP regulations, then it is okay to perform. They did this by plugging holes in their balance sheet with dirt, such as overstating fixed assets, insurance reimbursements, and capitalizing expenses. They would create reserve accounts to make it look realistic. The technique they used was they would have officials compare internal financial statements with the analyst expectations. If things looked to be looking worse than what the expectations were, they would create false accounts to make up the numbers. This was discovered. This technique that they were doing to overstate their books was first discovered by Michael Vines. He is a former bookkeeper at HealthSouth. He first sent letters to upper management alerting them of what was going on, but of course they went unnoticed because they thought he was just a low employee that didn't know what he was doing. So before he left HealthSouth, Michael sent numerous emails to Ernst & Young alerting them of what was going on, and of course they went unnoticed, but they didn't, because Ernst & Young did contact David Scrushy, but he blew it off and made it sound like Vines was a disgruntled former employee trying to make a name for himself. So later on down the road, these fleeced shareholders began complaining about what was going on. They noticed the stock prices were plummeting greatly, all the way down to 35 cents per share. And in 2003, Healthsouth Scandal was named. They realized that Healthsouth had been messing around with their books. Winston Smith, the former CFO at Healthsouth, was the one to blow the whistle. He alerted investigators about what was going on, and long after he did that, other employees began turning themselves in, hoping they would get off free. Well, not so fast. The consequences were pretty rough, especially for the top dogs. David Scrushy, he was in trial for 6 months, which was later known as the Scrushy trials, and was actually let off as a free man. But later he was convicted of bribery charges of over $500,000 to the former governor of Alabama, and he ended up spending 55 months in a federal prison. Aaron Beam, the former CFO of HealthSouth and former friend of David Scrushy, spent 3 months in federal prison. All 5 of the former CFOs witnessed against Scrushy in the Scrushy trials. Now, today, they are all free men. Squishy, Beam, and the other CFOs actually travel the world explaining what they did, why they did it, how they did it, and why not to do it now. They travel to different business colleges explaining to students what not to do, why it is wrong financially, and why it is wrong ethically to these companies to overstate and lie about numbers. And of course, they did not travel together.